And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking the Spanish Grand Prix preview. Will Carlos Sainz win the Spanish Grand Prix, make the home fans happy and get his first ever home victory? Could Fernando Alonso do it, or at least get a podium, something he failed to do last year despite that very, very handsome Aston Martin pace? Where will Mercedes be? Can Lewis Hamilton finally get on top of George Russell? Are Mercedes really back, or is that Red Bull rocket train going to make a comeback and finish 1-2 and show everyone, yep, we never left? All this and more for our Spanish Grand Prix preview. And welcome back. So we are talking the Spanish Grand Prix 2024. Yep, indeed. So first things first, let's have a look at the Spanish Grand Prix times, shall we? Because that's quite important when we don't want you to miss it. We do not want you to miss it. So here's the race weekend. This is local time. So we've got practice 1, 12:30 to 1:30. Practice 2, 4 till 5. Practice 3, 11:30 till 12:30. And qualifying 3 till 4. And the race starting at 2. If you're here in the UK, though, I think it's, if you're here in the UK, on Sky, if we scroll all the way down here, we've had all these races. There we go. Yep, qualify. The race starts at 12:30. The race starting at 2. So there you go. On Sky, 3 o'clock for qualifying. We've got 11:30 for practice 3. Practice 2 at 4. That's quite late actually in the day. And at 12:30 for practice 1. That is your times for the Spanish Grand Prix. Let's go then have a look at the Spanish Grand Prix track, shall we? So bear with me 2 seconds while I set this up. So we're going to have this is the track, and this is us driving the track. This is coming into the last corner. Now, in the last corner, you are going to want a very, very good slingshot coming out of that last corner. As we go down one of the longest straight, essentially, it's going to be the longest straight on the track. So we have DRS here as we're going to go into turns 1 and 2. It's almost like a really, really quick chicane. On the start, you can most certainly make moves coming in here. This is where we see most of the overtakes in the race. So right and a left, you do brake. You don't brake as much as you think. And here, this is the tyre here. This is turn 1, 2. I think this is turn 3. This is the one that really, really kills the tyres. This corner here. As we're now coming into turn number 4. There we go. Once again, helping really, really kill the tyres. And then into 5, 6, and into 5. Now here, this one here, you see many people at the start of the lap passing. You can pass here. It is a bit risky though. You kind of need a willing participant. And now we're into this quick right-left chicane. Once again, definitely one at a time. You see quite a few people lose it here, especially when there's low grip. And then this really, really fast right-hander into the next DRS and the second DRS. And we used to see some passes here, but what they've done now in the last few years, they've really opened up the corner here. So it is a really fast sweeping corner, and they've opened up the last 2 corners in Spain as well. So we're getting into the final 2 corners. As you can see, we're kind of going a bit wide here. On the power, on the money. Once again, really, on it, you need to be so close to somebody here, and hopefully close enough to get that blast of DRS down at that start-finish straight to do it all over again. Yes. But how many times are you going to do it all over again? How many times are you going to do it all over again? Well, I can tell you it's 66 times you'll be doing it. It's 66 laps in kilometres. The track length is 4.657 kilometres. It was first opened in 1991 and it's held 33 races, although there are rumours that it's going to another Spanish city of the Spanish Grand Prix, but they do want to save it here in Barcelona. It used to be very well known before DRS as a very boring track. However, there are notable moments. For example, Nigel Mansell and Ayrton Senna side by side in 1991 going into the first corner. Neither of them wanted to give, and it ended up being Ayrton Senna. Nigel Mansell got past. So we've a track record of a 1:15.4. That was at Bottas in 2019, but a lap record of a 1:18 during the race, 0.149. That was Max Verstappen in 2021. Yeah, not too shabby at all. So it's been held at Barcelona, as I said, 33 times. And during that time, there have been 16, yep, 6 different drivers who have won a Formula race at the track. Who are the most successful? Well, it's no surprise. It's going to be Schumacher and Hamilton. Michael Schumacher and Hamilton, once again, they share the record for most wins here, having taken 6 victories each. 5 drivers have back-to-back wins. We've got Nigel Mansell, Schumacher, Hakkinen, Hamilton, and Max Verstappen. Now, of those, Schumacher, Hakkinen, and Hamilton have taken more than 2 consecutive Spanish Grand Prix victories. Hakkinen won 3 in a row between 98 and 2000. Schumacher 4 in a row, and Hamilton 5 in a row from 2017 to 2021. There are 3 previous winners on the grid. We've got obviously Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and also Fernando Alonso, who's won this track twice. Now, the longest streak of different winners came between 2006 and 2016, where there were no repeat winners for 11 years. This is from Lights Out blog. British drivers have been fairly successful here. We've had Lewis Hamilton, Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill, and Jenson Button win the track. 3 drivers have done what you call a Grand Slam. That's Mansell in 92, obviously. Schumacher in 2002. Can you blame him, that Ferrari? And Max Verstappen in 2023. Yeah, this really is an aerodynamic track, but Ferrari have won the most races at Catalonia. But if you're looking purely for the engine or the engine manufacturer, it's Mercedes. Yeah, sadly. So they've won. No, actually, I take it back with 8. One more than Mercedes. No, Ferrari have the most wins there. But Mercedes have the most, power unit wins. I got a power unit engine. Let's just call it an engine, shall we? So Schumacher, though, he does hold the victory for the biggest margin. You may be able to guess, and it wasn't 1996. The biggest win margin was 51.988 seconds, and it wasn't the race where it was raining. It was in 1995. I mean, he absolutely dominated here. The smallest margin came in 2016 when Verstappen took his maiden win just ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, 0.616 seconds. I mean, not shabby at all. So, as the track replay is getting a tiny bit laggy, let's just take that off there. So let's get into the drivers then for the Spanish Grand Prix, and how do we think they are? I mean, let's be fair. How do we think they're going to do? So first of all, we have Kevin Magnussen. So Kevin, what do we really say about Kevin? Once again, you can't ignore the fact that this guy has issues with his penalty points. He was fairly okay last time out in Canada, maybe not so much in Monaco. I can't help but feel he got away with that in Monaco. I really, really can't help but feel that at all. He's the 10 previous appearances he has made at the Spanish Grand Prix. From those 10, he's picked up points just 3 times, and he's had a best result of 6th, which is I don't think it's not too shabby. But on to Nico Hülkenberg. Yeah, Nico Hülkenberg. How do you do? So Nico Hülkenberg, he's had, again, 10 previous appearances at the Spanish Grand Prix. From those 10 appearances, he's picked up points 3 times, again with the best result of 6th. Once again, not too bad. But as he comes in, he's got the Audi deal. He doesn't need to try. But I do expect him once again to be better than Kevin Magnussen, if I'm honest. I think he'll outshine him in qualifying and in the race, as has been very much the case. But Kevin Magnussen's Hassie is still very much in question with a lot of people, and not necessarily Kevin Magnussen being named. So next up, Zhao Guanyu. Now, after failing to finish on his Spanish Grand Prix debut, that was in 2022, he did score points in the 2023 event, finishing 9th, which is, I think, fairly solid. So do we reckon there'll be good things here? I mean, the Sauber is, let's just say, it's not one of the best cars, is it? Unfortunately, and a lot of it is going to be what that car is like, what that Ferrari power unit is like in the back of him. I mean, even Bottas has had a fairly, he's been fairly good here. He finished, I think, what is it? He's yet to win the Spanish Grand Prix, but he finished on the podium in in all 4 seasons, and that's between 2018 and 2021. And from his 11 appearances in 2013, 2017 and 2023 are the only seasons which he's not scored. So he knows this track. I imagine he can do good gangbusters. I think it's going to be I think it could be quite interesting. But we go from Bottas, who I think once again he's under pressure simply because he doesn't have a seat like Zhou for next year. But I think a lot of people are talking about Valtteri potentially getting a seat rather than his teammate. And this is what we're talking about. Seats, and sadly more seats. So let's get on to Daniel Ricciardo. So he finished 6th in this Grand Prix in 2021. And it's the only time that he's scored at the Catalonia track since 2018. He's got a 100% finish rate, which is quite good. And he had a really solid Canadian Grand Prix, really good qualifying, a fairly solid race as well. He showed up Tsunoda in parts, and that's exactly what he needs to keep on doing. Keep the faith. He seems to think he's found a few things with the car, so let's hope that translate to the Spanish Grand Prix, which is another track he has done quite well at, and it is another track he knows. But on to his teammate, Yuki of the Tsunoda. So he retired, sadly, on his first appearance in 2021, and he failed to make it out of qualifying in that year, I think in 16th place. In 22, he picked up a point with a 10th place finish, which wasn't too bad, but he finished 12th last year. Out of the two, I think Ricciardo will do better than Tsunoda. I might be putting my neck on the line, maybe, potentially. But I think he'll do fairly solid. I think he will do better than Yuki Tsunoda. At least that's what I'm predicting. Okay, this guy, will he do better than Yuki Tsunoda? Well, he's shown up Sergio Perez in qualifying in the last 2 rounds, believe it or not. I know. Imagine that. So, all 20 cars finish in the 2023 edition of the Spanish Grand Prix. Logan Sargent was the last one to cross the line, so I imagine he's going to be at the back, unlikely to score points. But we did see an upturn in form in Canada. But what's going to be interesting is if, for example, what a lot of people think, Carlos Sainz is going to be announced at the Canadian Grand Prix. What is Logan Sargent going to do? What is his head going to be like? That's going to be interesting, but I'm not predicting 2 big things. I am predicting big things from Alex Albon. He has made 4 appearances at the Spanish Grand Prix. He's only scored once with an 8th place finish in 2020, and that was in the Red Bull. Having said that Williams, the way it's going in Canada, the way it's improving, it wouldn't surprise me if he is in touch, between 8th and 10th in the points. So I think a solid weekend. Even if he doesn't make it into Q3, I think if he can start about 11th, 12th, unlucky for some 13th or 14th on those roads, I still think he's very much in shout with a point. So here we go here. Mr. Unemployed for 2025. Yes, Esteban Ocon. So he does not have a 100% finish rate, having retired, I think, with an oil leak in 2018. Not his problem. His best qualifying result of the circuit so far was in 2021, where he qualified 5th. And it was the first time he'd reached there in Q3 since 2017. So I don't think... he's been doing a bit better than Gasly. But what's interesting now, especially coming out of that Team Order debacle that happened at the Canadian Grand Prix, where he was very clear he wasn't happy, will he fall for Team Orders again, though? Because he thought, he was under the impression that they were going to swap back. No, Alpine did not say they were going to swap back places when he let Hulkenberg go in the Canadian Grand Prix with a few laps towards the end. But they didn't say they wouldn't either, and he obviously believed they would. He didn't, and he was like, okay. Now, Alpine, by doing that, because really they need constructors' points, not drivers' points, really, I think. Yeah, not the best. I don't think it was the best decision in the world. Definitely not the best decision in the world. But Gasly, I think, really needs to start dominating on Ocon. So Pierre Gasly, he scored in 4 of his 6 appearances at the Spanish Grand Prix. His best result of 6th in 2019, and I think he needs to carry on beating his teammate that's upstaged him a bit, let's say, so far this year. And onwards to everyone's favourite Canadian. Yeah, everyone's favourite Lance Stroll. So he scored at the Spanish Grand Prix for the first time. He finished 4th there in 2020, which was a really solid result. And he picked up points for the second time on the track in 23, finishing 6th. He finished outside the points on 4 of his other 5 appearances, and he's also retired after a collision with Lando Norris in 2019. Once again, he had a solid weekend in Canada, but what Lance Stroll is going to turn up? We've got the 80% Lance Stroll, that's normally very average Stroll, and then the 20% of the time we have a Lance Stroll that's very, very good. As I always say, they're better drivers to put in that Aston Martin. He's quite clearly there because his dad owns the team. I don't really have much more to say about Lance Stroll, but I do have interesting to say about Fernando Alonso, who seemed to have lost his form over the last few races. He's won the Spanish Grand Prix. He won in 2006 in the Renault and 2013 in the Ferrari. The 2013 Spanish Grand Prix remains Alonso's most recent victory in Formula One. So imagine if he was to win it this weekend. I don't think that's going to happen, but he has taken a further 5 podium finishes in front of his home crowd. He's scored only 3 times in the last 7 at his home race. So I'm not saying he's kind of cursed there like Barrichello was in Brazil, but still. But the biggest question mark is he actually going to have where was Fernando Alonso's form that was quite clear at the beginning of the year. And it's just kind of gone. It's almost like, they've put him and Lance Stroll into some kind of machine and swapped them over almost. I just don't get it. It's just really, really bizarre. So from one Spaniard to everyone's favourite Australian or second favourite Australian, if you like, Daniel Ricciardo, Oscar Piastri. So he reached Q3 here in 2023 and lined up 9th, but he lost 4 positions, quite sadly, last year. So, but he does know, I think he raced it in the Formula Renault Euro Cup as well. But could he beat Lando Norris here? I don't think so. Lando's quite experienced. I think Red Bull are going to... realistically, you'd like to think, we'll talk about Red Bull in a bit, they're going to be 1-2. I think McLaren have a very good chance of being best of the rest, and I think they're going to share that with Ferrari. It's either going to be McLaren or Ferrari best of the rest, with Mercedes nipping at their heels. And I fully expect this man here, I think because of his experience in Spain, and because they don't go testing there all the time, I think he'll be all right. He scored his first point, incidentally, at the Spanish Grand Prix in 2020. Not his first points ever, but his first points in Spain with a 10th place finish. He bettered that with 8th, and 8th in 21 and 8th again in 22. He failed to pick up any points in 2023, finishing 17th. But that was the pre-Austria upgrade, which zonked McLaren all the way up to fighting for podiums. But sadly it was 17th place in 2023. That's because he did have a comment together, I think maybe with Lewis at the beginning of the race. But I fully expect McLaren to be behind Red Bull, but not as far behind as we think they're going to be. I think if Red Bull have a normal weekend, they're going to win. But any issues, any problems we have with McLaren, with Red Bull, I think McLaren and or Ferrari can be there. And speaking of Ferrari, it is your home Grand Prix. Carlos of the Sainz, how are you going to do? Well, he's never failed to score here in all of his 9 appearances at his home event. His best result so far is 4th place, recorded in 2022. He finished in the top 5 again last year. Could he win it? Once again, I think it's going to need an element of luck. But if he is up there, I honestly think he has a chance of winning if they can put Red Bull under pressure and they're going to mess up. Fred Vassar said they will be in the mix. Unlike Toto Wolff, he doesn't normally promise things that he doesn't quite believe. So I think absolutely every chance they can potentially be in the mix right behind Red Bull or snapping at the heels. But as I said, I think Red Bull are going to, be not bad at all. But here we go. It's Charles Leclerc. And this was in 2022. This was when his season, when he had that failure, started to unravel. He has scored points on 3 of his last 5 appearances. He recorded his best result to date, I think, in 2021, which was 4th place. It would have been better in 2022, but alas, he retired whilst leading. Yeah. I think, once again, like Carlos Sainz, he'll be right up there. Which one of the two is going to be better? I don't know. You'd normally put your money on Charles Leclerc, but it is a home event for Sainz, and as Nigel Mansell said, that's always worth, well, I think he said as much as a second, but I always think if you really dig in, you're there, you're in the zone, it could be worth a couple of tenths, so that would be quite interesting to see. So next up is Mercedes. This is going to be, I think, other than looking at Red Bull's pace, this is going to be the most interesting. So looking at George Russell, before 2022, he'd never scored at the Spanish Grand Prix with a best result of 14th. Bear in mind, that was in his Williams days. He picked up his first points in 22 with a podium result, finishing third. And he finished third again in 2023. But I kind of expect him to maybe beat Hamilton in qualifying potentially. But I think if Hamilton is close to him in qualifying, I expect Lewis to beat him in the race. I mean, he has, on the whole, yes, been in qualifying definitely off George Russell's pace, but in the races he is very much on George Russell's pace. So he qualified in the top 10 at this circuit every year except 2009, that horrible McLaren, and he took pole in 2012, interesting, but was later disqualified, which opened up the possibility of the Pastor Maldonado Williams win. But that was the last time he did not start on the front row at the track until 2022, amazingly, where he qualified 6th. Now, in the last 10 seasons, Hamilton has started from pole at the Spanish Grand Prix on 6 occasions. 2013 is the only season that Hamilton has finished the Spanish Grand Prix in a worse position than he started from. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. That's not bad at all. Well, go Lewis Hamilton. So from Lewis Hamilton to the man I think under the most pressure, Sergio Perez. How do you do? So looking at his form, he's finished in the top 5 in all 4 seasons at the Spanish Grand Prix, having come home 5th in both 2020 and 2021. 2012 is the only season that Perez has failed to finish at the end of the race, while 2015 and 2019 are the only other years in which he's failed to score. So from his 13 appearances at the Spanish Grand Prix, he scored points 10 times, but that's not what you want to hear. We want to talk about his current form. This man has just signed a 2-year contract with Red Bull. Amazing. Lots of people were absolutely flabbergasted. There's debates whether it is a 1+1 or a 2-year. No one really knows for sure, and I don't think Red Bull have outrightly said. They've certainly not said it in a press release or anything like that. Does he deserve to be number 2? I think when you see Sergio Perez at his best, absolutely he does. Does he deserve on his current form? No. Does he deserve on his form at the beginning of the year? Yes. Should he continue his form from like Canada and Monaco? He doesn't deserve that seat for next year. But should he find his form that he had at the beginning of the year? Absolutely he does. And I think, other than Mercedes, it's Red Bull's pace and Sergio Perez's pace, which are the big talking points going into the Spanish Grand Prix. And here we go. The man of the hour, Max Verstappen, who won an absolutely fantastic Canadian Grand Prix. Some might say a tiny bit lucky with the safety car. But at the end of the day, he was there, kind of like the opposite of Miami. And McLaren did mess up. They had the potential to pit under the safety car. They didn't. Now, Max Verstappen in 2016 became the youngest race winner at the Spanish Grand Prix on his debut at Red Bull, and he won for a second time in 2022, having finished on the podium in all 4 previous seasons before scoring a second consecutive victory at the track in 2023. So that is our Spanish Grand Prix preview. I hope you enjoyed that. There we go. It's 2 minutes to 8 o'clock on Sunday the 16th at the time of recording. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you guys to it. But if you want to subscribe, that would be absolutely greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And here's the outro. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.